Welcome to Back Talk Live. I'm Tom Hardigree. You already probably knew that. Now look, this is what I do. I go to these meetings, I've told you all that, and I try to report on things mostly local. Sometimes I'll get a guest from out of town that'll talk about something else, and I've got that tonight. I joined the John Birch Society in 1980, really at the advice of Congressman Larry McDonald, who was my hero. Larry McDonald was the one you might remember that September 1st, 1983 was shot down. He and 268 other passengers on an airliner, KAL 007, they were shot down with a missile from a Soviet Union fighter jet. Larry was a brilliant man. I think Larry was the most brilliant person to ever serve in the Congress in that century. I think, and up to now, this century. He was absolutely, you ought to YouTube him sometime, look at him on YouTube. I'm sure that you can find some things about him. I know that there's one interview he did with my other hero, Pat Buchanan, that's just excellent, but you ought to look him up. He was an absolute brilliant man. But anyway, so I like to have, the John Birch Society is an educational organization, okay? And a lot of bad things are said about the Birch Society. It's the best organization that you can join if you are interested in your country and want to know why things seem to go wrong. Well, I've got a member, Evan Mulch. I've got a member of the John Birch Society here tonight, Evan Mulch. He's a field coordinator for the John Birch Society. He's here, and we're going to be talking about this North American Union that they're trying to put together. So anyway, we'll be talking about that tonight. Call in, don't be bashful. Evan can take your questions. I can't. I'm not as sharp about this as he is, but call in if you like. You can change the subject even if you like. But I think you'll enjoy tonight's show if you enjoy learning things, okay? We'll be right back. Hey Lee, what you doing?
My air's quit working. I'm gonna call McGee Heating and Air.
Wait a minute. You got a screwdriver? I know a good bit about this. I can walk you through it. Won't take but a second. Should have called McGee Heating and Air.
McGee Heating and Air. Comfort you can count on.
Okay, welcome back to Back Talk Live. I've got to say one more thing, Evan, before I get started, because we just had the McGee Heating and Air commercial. Now, I told you last week that I had to get a new air conditioner, and McGee Heating and Air came up there to sell me an air conditioner. Phil Byram was the guy that came up, real nice guy. Sent these other fellows up there to put the thing in. Now, I met three of them. There was another one, Herman Bryant, that I don't know that I ever saw him up there, but I understand he was there. But Corey Goss, Jason Floyd, and Tanner Cleveland were all up there. Nice guys, as nice as they could be, did a great job, explained things to me in terms that I could understand some of it. So anyway, they were real nice, real helpful, and got me cooled off. So I just got to tell you, you really can't beat McGee Heating and Air. That's just the way it is. All right, so what we got some troubles here.
Yes.
How about telling us, just give us because I'll tell you this, I know about NAFTA. I went to Washington to help fight NAFTA in 1993, and of course, as you know, we lost, and I understand about NAFTA, but now this new thing, I don't understand what they're doing.
And most people don't. And I'm finding that it's just really not something people are aware of. And unfortunately, we have a president and vice president that are pushing the USMCA. And if you remember NAFTA, it took a lot of education to get people to understand what was taking place. And that's what we're doing now with the USMCA is we're helping people to understand the situation that we're going to be put in if this USMCA is passed by President Trump. Now, it first has to get through Congress. And since fast track authority was already passed, which is illegal, by the way, it's unconstitutional. That was something we fought about 3 years ago.
Yep.
And that was done so that the president can get an up or down vote on a trade deal. Now, this is not just any trade deal. This is a treaty. So this is going to be, if it's passed the way that Congress and President Trump, not all of Congress plans to pass this. There's people that are against it.
Yeah.
But if it's passed the way they expect, it's actually unconstitutional the way it's being done, which is why those that are watching this, as a John Birch Society coordinator, I hope that you, if you don't already know the Constitution, you understand it, I hope that more of you will get involved because we were meant to be referees. Those of us that aren't elected officials, we were meant to hold our congressmen and everybody who takes an oath to office, including your sheriff, your mayor. We were meant to hold them accountable to the U.S. Constitution. That's what they take an oath to. And more of us need to know truly what's going on because there's not a lot of referees out there. I show up at an event to address this with a congressman. I may have 2 or 3 other people that get involved in speaking out against it as well. And I encourage everybody, if you're going to speak out against the USMCA, do it. If you're a man, do it like a gentleman would do it. And if you're a woman, do it like a lady would do it. Don't get up in somebody's face. Don't be venomous. Just pleasantly talk to people about what's going on because this is about the sovereignty of America. And NAFTA, yeah.
Tell me how this affects the sovereignty of America.
Well, I've got a reprint from the John Birch Society website. And if you go to jbs.org and you type in jbs.org/USMCA, you can actually learn more about this on that webpage. But on this reprint, which you can purchase from shopjbs.org, there's multiple points here that talk about what's really going on. What's wrong with the USMCA? It builds an unaccountable bureaucracy. So this is beyond our constitutional government. So this unaccountable bureaucracy will be able to make rulings without decisions of Congress. Congress is supposed to play a role in making our laws, and this will actually build an unaccountable bureaucracy, the same thing we've seen in the European Union. And that's, we know that in England they're trying to Brexit right now.
So let me ask you this. We're talking about the Constitution. We're talking about this new bureaucracy now. The Constitution is clear. The Congress is supposed to be the one to regulate trade among nations.
Right.
So what they're doing here, correct me if I'm wrong, what they're doing here is they're giving that authority to another agency or another bureaucracy, right?
Yeah, supranational, you can spell S-U-P-R-A, supranational bureaucracy. And that bureaucracy will not be made up of just Americans. It'll be made up of people from Mexico and Canada. And who knows, maybe they'll, they don't have to allow Americans on this bureaucracy. I don't believe so. But even if they do, you'll have people from Canada and you'll have people from Mexico that are managing this bureaucracy and that are making rules without Congress playing a role. So if you contact your congressman because you're upset with this new bureaucracy, your congressman is going to say, this is out of my hands. I can't do anything about this because we gave this power when we passed the USMCA. And this is the same issue they're having in Great Britain, where they've lost control of the European Union. They don't really have a say. You can contact your local representative and complain, but the only answer right now for Britain is to exit the European Union. And so this is exactly the formula that they used to create the European Union. It's salami slices of economic unions, and they disguise it as free trade. And they call it free trade because most Americans believe in free trade. I believe in free trade. I believe in lowering as many barriers as possible to make it possible to trade with Canada and Mexico. But this is about controlled trade. This is not about free trade. And what they do is they let people know the benefits that will happen right away. And there are a few benefits because Canada and Mexico are going to bend over backwards to make this deal happen, because they know what this economic union will do is it'll suck the wealth from the United States of America, which is exactly what the NAFTA agreement did.
Yeah.
Which was also unconstitutional. Still is unconstitutional. I mean, if President Trump wanted to do what he told us, he could just write an executive order and get rid of NAFTA because it is unconstitutional. And that's what we hope. We hope President Trump will wake up to what's going on. He did not write this agreement. This was actually written by the same group that wrote the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We've got great videos on our John Birch Society YouTube page. There's a playlist about getting out of NAFTA, and if you go to the John Birch Society YouTube page, you look at our playlist. There's one about getting out of NAFTA and stopping the USMCA. And Christian Gomez actually does a great video where he explains who was behind the creation of this USMCA deal. But it's, as he explains in the video, and Christian Gomez, by the way, he's a writer for the John Birch Society. He's done an excellent job with this article and with other articles and with videos on our website. But he explains very well in the video, this is Barack Obama's trade team that Trump said he called them terrible negotiators. Well, guess what they've done? They've taken a lot of the wording from that Trans-Pacific Partnership and they've put it into the USMCA. And if you don't believe me, because I want you to search on your own, all you have to do is look at what Richard Haas said. Now, Richard Haas is the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, and this is a reprint we have on shopjbs.org that you can purchase. It's actually made up of, I think, 4 articles. But you can actually see his tweet on here that he tweeted, and he said on here on October 1st of last year, the USMCA looks to be the trade pact formerly known as NAFTA plus 10 to 20%. Hope it becomes a precedent for TPP. I suggest the U.S.-Pacific Trade Agreement. What matters is that the U.S. joins it. Doing so would bolster our strategic position vis-a-vis China and our economy. And here's his next tweet here that's posted from October 2nd. And this is when the USMCA was first published for people to see it. It was when it was about 1,800 pages. Now it's over 2,000 pages. But this is his next tweet. USMCA is NAFTA plus TPP plus a few tweaks. Whatever, if real Donald Trump and Congress are now prepared to embrace a pro-trade agenda. So he's basically, in this tweet, he's saying, we all know Richard Haas has not been in support of President Trump. The Council on Foreign Relations publicly has looked down on President Trump. If you read what Richard Haas has been writing on Twitter, and he's the president of the organization. And keep in mind, this is the organization that's been the front group for the New World Order since 1922. So keep that in mind. So he's pretty much saying, okay, whatever, Trump, you stopped TPP, you really made us upset. We wanted the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and now you're going to do the USMCA. Whatever, President Trump, go ahead and do this one because we're still getting out of it what we want, which is we're getting Trans-Pacific Partnership plus NAFTA. And so he continues here. Ideally, U.S. participation in TPP by another name would be next. Failing that, a U.S.-Japan FTA would be the second best. FTA is free trade agreement. So the front group for the New World Order within the borders of the United States of America, the Council on Foreign Relations, they always call these agreements free trade. But this is really globalist controlled trade. And that's what Americans need to understand. And that's what Mike Pence, when he goes to Anderson, South Carolina on Monday, he's got an event there around noon. That's what he's going to be getting Republicans to believe in, is that this USMCA deal is a free trade agreement, when in all actuality, it's being pushed by the president of the Council on Foreign Relations. And it was actually designed, President Trump appointed himself, Robert Lighthizer, and I'm trying to find a picture of him. Here's a picture in this reprint of Robert Lighthizer here on Trump's left, and then you've got his son-in-law here on the right, Kushner, and Robert Lighthizer has his eyes closed. But this is a Council on Foreign Relations member that's leading, he's the U.S. Trade Representative. Why President Trump picked him, we don't know. We would have never had advised him to pick a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. In fact, the John Birch Society would say nobody from the Council on Foreign Relations should ever be working with the president, because this is a group that's on the opposite side of Americanism. So basically what we have to decide as Americans is, are we going to choose globalism or are we going to choose Americanism? And that's the big question that's taking place right now. But Americans, majority, and I see this when I work for the John Birch Society, they want Americanism. The problem we're running into is Americans are getting fooled. And you've got a president that said he was American first, he was for American sovereignty, and no organization was happier when the Trans-Pacific Partnership was ended by President Trump. The John Birch Society members were just ecstatic about the fact, because we educated people about this for years, and it seemed like nobody at the top was listening. And all of a sudden, you heard Senator Jeff Sessions talking about this at the Senate, and we were thinking to ourselves, this has got to be somebody who's reading our material, because he's talking like we're talking out here. And so we were all excited about Senator Jeff Sessions stopping the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Well, then when President Trump was running for president and he started talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, we thought, oh man, he's one of us. I mean, he's going to stop this free trade agenda, and he's going to restore Americanism in this country. And he's doing a lot of good things for America. But the USMCA deal, he may not know, is a complete fraud. This is a destructive, globalist controlled trade agreement that will make it harder to be an entrepreneur. It'll make our kids poor. I mean, it'll destroy the middle class. And that's exactly the intentions of the Council on Foreign Relations. So anyways, do we have any questions yet, or do you want to?
No, we got to take a little break.
Okay.
We'll do that. We'll go to a commercial break and come back. Man, this is good stuff. This is good stuff.
Hey, it's light. This is the lighter stuff we talk about in the John Birch Society. No, I'm joking.
Leroy, I'm about to sell this house. I need you to check something out for me.
I need you to get under there and see if there's any moisture in the insulation or the wood bracing or anything like that.
Why can't you do it?
Well, I tell you, my back has been giving me a little trouble lately.
Is it safe?
Of course it's safe.
Are you sure? The last time I listened to you, I fell off a ladder.
Get on under there, Leroy. Everything look all right in there?
Oh, God. Oh, it looks terrible under there. There's moisture all up in the insulation. It's ruined. You're going to have to call hair and gutter and insulation.
I'll do it, Leroy. They're the best there is. Thank you a lot.
Call Hair and Gutter and Insulation today for your water restoration needs in your attic or crawl space. Not only can they install your insulation, they can dry out your home and treat for mildew and mold if needed. Call today for your free in-home inspection.
Leroy, I'm about to be late for my tea time. Thank you a lot, old buddy.
Hi, folks. We're at the Dairy Queen of Hartwell to give breakfast eaters a voice. So how'd you fellas like your Dairy Queen breakfast?
Oh, they're mighty fine.
Excellent.
The best breakfast in town.
Good breakfast.
How do you like high taxes?
I don't like them too good.
I don't like them in the local level or any other part of government.
Don't like them at all.
I don't like high taxes.
4 out of 4 breakfast eaters choose Dairy Queen food over high taxes. And Ray, how do you like Back Talk Live?
Back Talk Live.
Welcome back to Back Talk Live. Tom Hardigree. This is Evan Mulch with the John Birch Society. And we're talking about the USMCA.
And to start out, I don't want this suit to fool anybody. I'm from a small town in western Kansas. Grew up wearing jeans and stuff people wear in the rural areas. So don't let the suit fool you. I grew up on a farm. I know what it's like to live in a rural area like this. Our favorite place to meet was the Dairy Queen, and our top restaurant in town was the Pizza Hut. So don't let the suit fool you. John Birch Society field coordinators, we always wear our suits, and so anyways, that's what I'm wearing today on the set here.
You're not fooling me. So anyway, this thing is sovereignty reducing or even eliminating piece of mail that we're trying to deliver.
Yeah, so the only good thing out of this USMCA thing is it looks like China can't join it, right? Mm-hmm. And we all know Trump is trying to leverage the United States against China. Yeah. China's bad. Yeah. I mean, they have Lenin and Marx in their government facilities. I mean, this is a communist country. If you read the life of John Birch, he's the namesake of the John Birch Society. We're not named after a tree company. We're named after a Christian missionary. A Christian missionary, if you're a Christian, this should be a book that's passed around members of your church. Because John Birch was a hero for America when World War II took place. Actually, the man who saved Jimmy Doolittle when he crash landed into China after dropping bombs on Japan. And John Birch was not there to serve the military initially. He didn't want to. He wanted to spread the gospel, and that's why he was in China. And this is a guy that got caught up in a war and decided to do the best he could, and he did, and he exposed communist China, and then he was killed by the communist Chinese, which is, so we call him the first casualty of the Cold War, because 8 days after World War II was over, he was actually killed by the communist Chinese, and our federal government hid it from his family. So his parents were in Macon, Georgia. They were told that their son was killed by friendly fire, and he was actually killed by communists. And the reason they covered that up is because our federal government helped Mao Zedong and the communist Chinese, armed them, gave them aid, and he was able to kill millions of Chinese, a lot of them Christians, and he pushed Chiang Kai-shek, who was a Christian, he was a Christian until his death. Chiang Kai-shek, who was the leader of the Chinese people, he was pushed back to Taiwan. And that's the plot that took place that most Americans have no idea about. But you find out a little bit about that in the life of John Birch. But of course, we have our book Shadows of the Deep State that explains that very well, and what happened with World War II. You know, the first things that were done after the war was over. So
I got to hear Mr. George Birch one time, the father of John Birch. His name George.
And you know what? I think so.
Yeah. He was at one of our meetings in Atlanta one time, a couple of times actually. Mm-hmm. He got up and said hello to the crowd.
Well, they gave the John Birch Society their blessing to name it the John Birch Society. So Robert Welch, who was from North Carolina, Robert Welch was a child prodigy. He graduated University of North Carolina, I think at the age of 14.
Yeah.
And then went on to help his brother build an incredible candy company. So they didn't create Welch's grape juice, so don't confuse them with that. It was candy that they sold, and that's how he. It
was sugar babies and sugar.
Sugar, there you go.
That's what it was. Yeah, sugar babies, sugar mamas, sugar daddies, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
maybe not sugar mamas. That might be from something else.
Yeah, Robert Welch could have named the society after himself. Imagine so many men today, and probably at that time too, would name a society after themselves, because that would be what your ego would want, is to have the society named after you. Robert Welch goes, well, here's a man who was a hero that not enough people know about. I'm going to name the society after him so everybody can remember what he was trying to do. And so the Americans realize that John Birch set the level pretty high, that he was a top-notch guy, and this is somebody we should all strive to be in life, this true American that is trying to help people believe in God. And anyways, that's short. Yeah.
Yeah, and oh God, I'm having one of those senior moments. I had a thought a while ago.
I didn't know you had those, Tom.
I have them. I'm getting old. So anyway, more about this, or you want to move on?
Well, we can move on from the USMCA. If you have questions, go to jbs.org. You can always find my information on that website.
Oh, I know what it was.
Yeah.
Robert Welch. I've seen a YouTube video of him. I think it was about a 1960 speech that he made. I don't remember the year, but it was a great speech. I've seen it on Facebook several times. People put it on there and they don't maybe didn't know who Robert Welch was, but the reason they put it on Facebook is because they say what this guy was saying back in 1960 has come true.
Right.
So
right.
you ought to take a look at that.
And before we end this, please, if you believe in what I'm telling you about the USMCA, and I want you to research it yourself, buy these in large amounts. I'm going to show you. They come in packages like this. There's 25 of them in a package, and they cost about $0.25 a piece when you buy them in bulk. Buy a lot of these and start handing them out at community meetings. If your congressman's in town, bring these, hand them out to everybody, and then ask your congressman a question about the USMCA. That's really something that's got to be done. And if you can't meet him at a town meeting, schedule a meeting with him. Call his scheduler in Washington D.C. and get yourself on the schedule.
That's a very good idea. If you can educate the Congress, that'll be great.
Yes, that's the key.
Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about while I got you here, this very popular thing, term limits.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are in favor of term limits, and I want to.
Well, every radio show host, conservative radio show host that I know of, every major one, even the local ones in my area where I live in Spartanburg, they all want to tell you term limits are the answer.
Yeah.
Term limits are always the answer, right?
Right. Well,
it's political candy is what it is.
So it seems to me, I want to set it up this way, I think. So what you have is you have people who are displeased with the Congress. All over America, we're displeased with the Congress. Now, we're not necessarily displeased in our own congressman. I would say in our district, people like Doug Collins, a pretty good bit. He doesn't have any problem getting reelected. So we like our own congressman, but we don't like your congressmen, the ones out there in the rest of the world. We don't like them. So we have this sort of elitist attitude that we know better than all of those voters out there. So we're going to limit the terms of we'll even throw in our congressmen. Yeah. We're going to limit the terms. We're going to say that the voters have no choice to re-elect their congressman if they like him. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, but Nancy Pelosi, well, the people in Nancy Pelosi's district like her. I don't, but they do. And the founders of our country, in their wisdom, said, all right, here's the deal, people. We're going to set up a House of Representatives that in our Constitution it says they are the ones who control the money. Without them, nothing can be spent. So if you Americans don't like the way that the Congress is spending your money, we're going to make them face you every 2 years. Mm-hmm. And you can limit their term every 2 years if you want to. Not like the Senate that gets 6 years, but the House of Representatives get every year they come back. Every two years they come back to face the voters. Now, what we have is a problem of a lot of badly informed, misinformed, uninformed voters. That's what we have. That's what we're faced with. Yeah. That's a problem. But that is the way that it's set up, and without a setup like that, we're doomed.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. If we have term limits, let's just say that we do get term limits, and we want to get rid of these congressmen because we think they're crooks or bad eggs or stupid or whatever it is we think about them. Guess what? The voters that elected that crook are going to elect another crook just like him, or another moron just like the last moron. Term limits are not going to solve anything. It's just going to give us some musical chairs. Here is the really dangerous part of it. So we've already established that they are crooked, or they are stupid, or both, or whatever. We've established that's why we don't like them. So what we're saying is, with term limits, we're going to let each one of these guys, 535 of them, have lame duck periods from the day of their last election until the day they leave office. They can do anything they want because they do not have to face the voters again. Just like, when the presidents have their lame duck sessions at the end of their second term, you have to watch out because you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about 535 of those. Can you imagine the crookedness that'll go on in Washington if we have 535 people who do not have to face the voters?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I more than opened it up, but.
Well, I tell people that, do you think you're smarter than the founders of our constitutional republic? Because the founders of the constitutional republic were against term limits. In fact, they already had them during the Articles of Confederation. And when they were creating the U.S. Constitution, they had the arguments on whether or not there should be term limits because they already had them. And they decided against them because they found out that human nature is once somebody knows that their term is going to end, it's almost always the case, they'll start doing what the lobbyists want, not what their electorate wants. So the best thing that you can have is a healthy system where the congressman always has an opportunity to get reelected. And why would you want to limit a great congressman that obeys the Constitution? Why would you want to limit him to 2 terms when you could have him for 12 years or 14 years or 16 years? Why would you limit that person? Nancy Pelosi's district, I hate to break it to people, but it can get worse than Nancy Pelosi. It really can. I mean, if you see what's happening in politics right now, it can get worse than Nancy Pelosi. Now, she has a lot of leadership because she's been there so long, so people say, well, that's the answer. So it would look like there's short-term benefits to term limits, but I would look at somebody that would say that and say, okay, well, Colorado and California both have term limits in their state legislatures. How's that working out for them? And I can just tell you, because we have a field coordinator in Colorado that does the same job as me here in Georgia, and he has said that ever since they passed term limits, the elites, the globalists, you name them, they have more control over the state legislature. It's easier for them to elect the people they want elected now that there's term limits, because they still got the money that's rolling around behind the scenes. So they just got to find somebody that is egotistical, that is immoral, and that will run and lie to the people to get elected, and then do whatever these deep state people will do. And unfortunately, in a lot of these districts, that's not hard to find. So what I would say, the solution is, at most, you need 500 members of the John Birch Society in a congressional district. And if you look at a congressional district, 500 is a super small number. I mean, we're talking, over 100,000 people in a congressional district. So if you had 500 members that got together and decided you're going to educate the electorate, you would naturally get the congressman you want after you educated the electorate. But it does take work, and that's a problem we run into, is we want to blame other people, but really it's us that's the problem. We are not educating people like we need to educate people.
All right, we got to go to a break, and we've got a caller, Dobbs. Please hold on. Let us take this break. We got to get back on track here a little bit. Hang on, Dobbs. Hang on.
Tom, I can't wait to see Gina's new store.
Me, Lee, don't let me go overboard in here, please.
Lee, she's got beautiful jewelry. She's got men's wallets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been looking for one.
Why don't you go ahead and get that and see what happens.
Tom, you need some t-shirts, man. Simply Southern. Look at all this.
Oh, yeah, man. I think I'll get a t-shirt, Lee. I think I'll get one.
Tom, they've got totes, monogrammed, insulated and uninsulated.
Yeah, man. I got to have this one. Lee, they've even got monogrammed handbags.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. I think the wife would like this one.
Sure. Tom, they even had a pet section. Pet deodorizers, pet scarves, clothes.
Leroy, they got strutting cotton, turn rose, and southern sipping t-shirts. Well, thank you, Leroy.
Tom, she's got a line of Bible covers, Bibles, Christian books, even books for kids.
And my favorite, the King James Version. that's the one that Moses read. Leroy, they got this spirit wear, Hart County stuff, Georgia Bulldogs, some Clemson stuff, and they got these neat towels.
For all of your gift-giving needs, visit G's Southern Traditions, located at 36 North Forest Avenue in downtown Hartwell. And we can monogram almost anything.
Well, looks like you did go a little crazy, didn't you?
Frankly, my friend, I don't give a.
The Hartwell Housing Authority features decent, safe, and sanitary housing for low-income families. Each of the 7 apartment complexes are located in the Hartwell city limits and feature 24-hour maintenance, landscaping, as well as 24-hour surveillance. You can choose apartments from 1 bedroom all the way up to 4 bedrooms. All apartments are periodically renovated and stoves and refrigerators are furnished. Gas, water, sewage, and garbage pickup are also included. The Hartwell Housing Authority. Applications may be picked up daily.
You may not know this, but your business is a prime target for cyber criminals. Without proper protection, cyber attacks can decrease employee productivity, compromise important business files, and put your business at risk. Tech Office is an easy-to-use cybersecurity and productivity solution that protects your business against the evolving cyber threat landscape. This advanced business software suite includes malware protection. Ensure your devices are secure with class-leading endpoint security. Cloud backup to ensure you never lose important files to ransomware attacks or hardware failure. A password manager to create and remember your passwords. And even a network analyzer to ensure devices stay connected to your office network. Our friendly technicians are available around the clock to assist with your most difficult business technical challenges. Tech Office helps keep your business running smoothly. Contact us today and get the best protection and support available.
Okay, welcome back. Hey Dobbs, I'm sorry it took so long, but I had to get back on track. I don't have Lee Brinson here to help me keep things in order. Go ahead, Dobbs. Dobbs? Uh-oh. Call back, Dobbs. So anyway, yes, absolutely. You know, I know that the John Birch Society, you know, the people who like big government, who like all of the things that the John Birch Society is opposed to, which, you know, the things that the Birch Society is opposed to are the things that I am opposed to, and you probably are too, but a lot of the people who are opposed to the Birch Society have done a very good job of smearing the Birch Society by, you know, calling us names, all of the isms and that sort of thing. None of it's true, of course.
What I'm finding though is that the problem, that kind of problem was around a decade or two ago.
Yeah.
Now I'm running into the situation where people just don't know about the John Birch Society. And so I think as a John Birch Society member, that's incorrect thinking at this point in time. There are people with those thoughts and they want to know, you know, especially the older generation, they want to know. I often get asked, why do I have bad feelings about the John Birch Society? And I can ask them a question, well, did you watch William F. Buckley when you were growing up? And they're like, yeah, I love William F. Buckley. He was my favorite guy in the news. I was like, well, he was a member of Skull and Bones, he was a member of the CIA, and he was given a National Review and a news organization, and he was called the conservative when his job was actually to move conservatives more to the left.
He was a neocon.
Yeah.
All right, we got Dobbs back. All right, Dobbs, go ahead.
Tom, how you doing tonight?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Just a question. We're talking about term limits.
Yeah.
According to the Constitution, can the Congress put a term limit on the president?
On the president?
Well, that would be impeachment, right? Well, it was added to the Constitution.
It was added at about almost 1947.
Yeah. For a long time, the precedent was set by George Washington, and so it was just followed because it never wanted to be perceived that the United States of America had a king.
Yeah.
And originally, the president had no power except to execute. Mm-hmm. So it was no big deal. But I mean, at this time period, I'd love to have George Washington back, and I'd let him stay in office as long as he wanted to. You know?
Sure, yeah.
But he was older, and he needed, you know, he wanted to get out of office. He didn't want to spend his whole life until his death as a
well,
president.
And it was that these were not big high-paying jobs, and president or Congress, since people volunteered their time to go and serve their country. But then, after Roosevelt stayed in more than 2 terms, I think it was in 1947 they decided to limit presidents to 2 terms. I think I'm right. I may be wrong.
But I'll say, yeah, so they did add it, but every president, was the Council on Foreign Relations, which was created in 1921, really played a major role in picking every president up until President Trump, and we don't really know. We won't know where President Trump truly stands until his term, is over, and who knows? Maybe it looks likely he'll be reelected again. We'll see what happens with that. But even though there's term limits on the president, it doesn't mean the bankers or money controllers, the globalists, it doesn't mean they lose power with a new president. And that's why we got to hold. Not many people know that the Supreme Court is actually limited in their time. The Supreme Court justices can actually be taken out by Congress. Congress has all the power. Congress can take a president out through impeachment. Congress can impeach, Supreme Court justice because the Supreme Court justice is not acting. He's not obedient, and that's constitutional. So Congress has all this power, and so what Congress has to be reminded of is Congress has to be reminded that they have this power to limit the time period people are in office if they do go off track and they don't obey their oath to the U.S. Constitution. But the problem we have in America right now is how would you, if you don't obey the Constitution yourself, it's kind of hard to throw rocks at somebody that doesn't obey the Constitution either. And that's what we're running into in Congress and with our Supreme Court justices. Since all of them aren't obeying the Constitution, it's like a bunch of criminals. We do have congressmen that do obey the Constitution. One of them is Thomas Massey out of Kentucky. So anybody who says it can't be done, all you need to do is go to thenewamerican.com, look at the Freedom Index, study Congressman Thomas Massey's voting record, and there you go. You got a constitutionalist in office who takes his oath to obey the U.S. Constitution seriously. And remember that when they hold their hand up and they put their hand on the Bible, they're taking an oath to God. So it's up to us as the referees in America to call people out when they may make mistakes and they don't know the U.S. Constitution. Congressman Trey Gowdy used to be my congressman, and he'd have arguments with me about what was constitutional. Well, he was on his way to endorsing Marco Rubio for president, and I got a hold of Trey and I said, you do know that Marco Rubio there's no chance he is constitutionally able to run for president because his parents, neither one of them were American citizens. So he is not a natural born citizen. And Trey did not care. He just, shook it off and he went ahead and endorsed Marco Rubio. Well, it was no surprise to me when he scored a 30% on his last Freedom Index. So this is the Freedom Index that the John Birch Society uses to score congressmen on whether or not they obey the Constitution. But Trey Gowdy ended his last term with a 30%. And this is, a congressman in my district who everybody thought was a constitutionalist and somebody that could do no wrong in Congress. This man was not obeying the Constitution like Congressman Thomas Massey. And whenever I meet with the congressman, they ask me, well, what should I do? I said, you need to talk to Congressman Thomas Massey before you make any vote because he has the best track record. And then they shrug it off because they don't want to follow Thomas Massey because it's not a lot of fun to be a congressman that obeys the U.S. Constitution. You have to make tough decisions when it could be easier just to spend spend a few more billion on that and go to one more war. Even if it's unconstitutional, it's easier to stick with the crowd than to be the only one that stands up against what's going on in America.
Hold on now, Dobbs, we got a little far away from your question.
Yeah, let's get back to that. Now, Congress cannot tell me who I can vote for. Is that correct?
Correct.
But Congress can tell me who I cannot vote for by putting in term limit. I mean, Tom, you know I'm all for term limits because they're going to do that to the president, and let's do it to them.
I understand, yeah.
Well, you can get rid of your congressman, the electorate can, while he or she is office. If
we can also get rid of a president too.
Yeah, through
But
impeachment.
With the term limit on the president, guess what? So why not do it to Congress? I mean,
well, I understand. I actually don't really want the president to be limited except by the voters. I think that the people should have all the power. I think if the people are too stupid to vote for people who are going to do the right thing, well, then we're too stupid. We might not need to have a country if we're that stupid. But I think that the founders had it right in saying the voters would have the power.
Yeah, the lobbyists just get more control with term limits, and that's why the state of Colorado and the state of California have a phenomenal amount of liberalism going on right now. And it's not the only reason, but what happened is once the leftists had control when they passed term limits. So why would they want that? Well, term limits gave the lobbyists nearly complete control over the state of Colorado and over the state of California. And right now, you look at the state government of Colorado and you can't even recognize it from what it was 20, 30 years ago. They've got a governor that's totally off track. And then you've got the governor of California. Who's the current governor? The guy that's been there a long time.
Gavin?
Not Gavin, older gentleman.
Moonbeam. Jerry
Moonbeam. Brown, yeah. So he was governor a long time ago, like 30 plus years ago, and now he's back to, is he still the governor there?
Yeah.
But what he would do is he would just switch offices, even with term limits, and now he's back to being governor again. The people, the deep state still runs the show with term limits. The only solution to getting elected officials that obey the U.S. Constitution is the electorate has to get involved. And I can tell you,
we're going to have to go to break. But I want I want Dobbs to get. I did it again. Sorry, Dobbs. I want Dobbs to get in your last point because you called.
Thank you.
So go ahead and take a shot before we go to break.
All right, just yes or no. Was it constitutional for Congress to tell us, who we can vote for and who not? Was it really constitutional for them to put a term limit on the president?
Was it constitutional to put a term limit on the president?
Yes.
Yeah, Congress has all the power. And Congress can add amendments to the Constitution that change the U.S. Constitution. So, yes.
All right, very good. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you, Dobbs. All right, we got to go to a break. We'll be right back. We'll wrap this thing up. Hang around, give us a call, text, or whatever you want to do.
On the train test range, you learn what makes our heating and cooling systems so reliable. If there's a breaking point, we'll find it. It's hard to stop a train. Really hard.
Remember, McGee Heating and Air. Comfort you can count on. It's hard to stop a train.
Protect yourself or your loved ones with a personal emergency response system from HTC. Knowing that your loved one can quickly reach help will give everyone more peace of mind. For just $5.99 a month, you can lease the equipment and 24-hour monitoring costs just $19.99. The personal home safety system includes a wristband or pendant and two-way voice for instant emergency access. Live independently with a personal emergency response system from HTC. Technology you need, people you can trust.
Welcome back to Back Talk Live. Tom Hardy and Evan Mulch, field coordinator with John Birch Society. I got to tell you about I am in the real estate business, folks. I need some listings. I've run out of houses almost and things. And I had 154 Steelwood. I was going to put pictures up, but I got mixed up today. I did something wrong. But anyway, I'll show them to you next week. But I need some listings, if you don't mind. Any kind of, especially houses. I've got some land listed and some lake lots and things, but I really kind of need some houses to put in there, if you don't mind. And I'll sell them, for you. and you'll be happy. Everybody will be happy.
I always see them on Facebook, and you put them up for sale, and they're like sold like a week later.
Well, this market is just fabulous. So anyway, yeah, we got to wrap it up. What do you got?
Well, for those that are viewing this, if you're interested in these topics, if you want to dive into the John Birch Society material, go to our website. If you want to join as a member, it's $87 a year to be a member of the John Birch Society. If you want the paper magazine, which this is the magazine right here, it comes in twice a month. And then we've got a bulletin that comes in once a month. And so this is intelligence information that every American needs to be getting, and every American that cares about our country.
Let me just tell you, when I was young, I wrote this Congressman Larry McDonald I was telling you about, and I told him, because in those days there was no internet, of course, there was none of that kind of stuff, and I did not fit in. I tried to be liberal, I think, because I went to college and they were trying to make me believe in all that stuff. And I tried my best, but it did not come naturally to me. I could not be one. Liberals are emotional creatures. They operate off their feelings. I'm more logical. I operate off logic and my thinking. That's just the way that I'm built. And I contacted Larry McDonald. He sent a couple of fellows up here to recruit me into the John Birch Society. I didn't know much about what it was. I'd heard that the John Birch Society was a bunch of nuts one time from a friend of mine. But when these guys came up and presented everything, I joined, got a bunch of books. It cleared up, people. All of the questions that I had about why everything seemed to be going wrong in America were cleared up when I started reading this material. I must have read, a dozen books in the first 6 months, and it was like a weight had been lifted off of me, because I finally got the answers that I'd been looking for that nobody else seemed to have. So it can work like that for you if you're curious about why things are going wrong. It can work that way for you if you keep an open mind and you think, okay, I'm looking for answers. I don't seem to find them. I'll try the Birch Society. Just read the mag. Take that New American. It will open your eyes.
You can go on our New American website, thenewamerican.com, and you can get a subscription to the magazine. I think a digital subscription, is about $12 a year. So for that amount, you can get a digital subscription. You can always sign up for our free email alerts. If you go to jbs.org, our member website, you can even sign up as a free member, and that gets you access to our emails. Of course, we want everybody to be a paid member so that we can send this to you, because isn't it great when you can walk up to your neighbor and you can say, you got to read this article. This is really something that made me think, and I'm in agreement with this author, and we just need more people in our community to understand these things that are going on. Because out here in Hartwell, there's not a lot of leftist strategy going on out here like there is in California. But you need to know what's going on in California so that you know what's coming when somebody from California moves here and they don't, they look like they're going to lead the Democrat Party and do things that are different than what's going on in Hartwell. And to understand their mindset and what they're trying to do, you can read our magazine and understand, what's going on in public schools in some places, what they're teaching the kids in public schools. We had Alex Newman on this show a few weeks ago,
yep.
And what they're teaching the kids is just, we would never in our heart ever want kids to know these things in elementary school, mm-hmm. or to study them, to study, different, to not believe they're boy or girl, or to study perverted, things that some leftists are forcing kids to study mm-hmm. in public schools in some states. But the John Birch Society, we do warn people about what's coming down, and that's why the John Birch Society is being proven right. We were warning about these things decades ago, and suddenly it's here, and we're glad so many Americans are waking up. But we just wish it didn't take this long for Americans to wake up, and it's nice to see Donald Trump do a lot of things that are good for us. Mm. And so to the caller, term limits on a president, the electorate needs to be healthy and elect the right people each time. And so I still, if we didn't have a term limit on the president, I personally think that would be better, because that would keep the electorate going. And then if we had a great president that obeyed the Constitution, you could keep that president as in office longer than just 8 years. But it all depends on whether or not you have a healthy and you have an educated and religious people. You got to have people that believe in God, that will vote for the right people every single election. And that's we've seen that's been our big problem, is a lot of people that go to church, they don't vote. And a lot of people that go to church, they go and vote for people that they have nothing in common with. And so we need people to get out and vote in elections, and to not only do that, but to participate in educating people throughout the year, so that we don't lose this great system of government that we have, and this great freedom that we can experience. This is our inheritance. We need to do everything we can to protect it.
Thank you so much, Evan Mulch from the John Birch Society. I want to tell you about a local thing. Now, I apologize because I did it again. I said last time I wasn't going to do this. The Hartwell Sun doesn't ever put in there an article about qualifying for city council. They've just, for decades, they've not done it. And when Lee was here, we always committed ourselves to making sure that we let everybody know. Since Lee's gone, I missed some things. I missed it again, and I told you I wouldn't miss it. We had qualifying for city council was over yesterday. I am so sorry. We got Bill Griggs is the only one that has competition, and that's Doc Ayers is going to be running against Bill Griggs for city council. The other two, Tony Haney and Mike McNabb, didn't have opposition. I got nothing against anybody on the council. I don't ever encourage people to run against individuals. I just want a lot of people to run so that we can have a lot of ideas swapped. And I dropped the ball by not letting you know, because I'm the only sort of media outlet that's going to let you know these things. I don't know why, but that's just the way that it is. But I apologize again. I'll try to do better next time, and maybe you can help me next time. The next time there's qualifying coming up, somebody let me know, and I'll be glad to announce it. But anyway, I hope that maybe we can have the incumbent Bill Griggs on the show. I hope he'll want to come on, as well as his challenger, Doc Ayers. I talked to Doc in the parking lot before the show, and he said he will. He maybe said he'll think about coming on, but it sounded favorable. So anyway, we've got that coming up. Next week we'll talk about some other local things that we couldn't get to tonight. But thank you again, Evan Mulch. I appreciate you coming on and sharing this stuff. It's really important.
I love the show, and what a great service for the community. There's not a lot of communities that have this, in there for people in the area to view, and I think what a service this is, and so to whoever puts this together, big thanks to them. I know you do a lot of work, but the studio is ready for you when you come in here, and it's just such a great thing.
Wes Bailey he's just a genius. He does all this most of the time by himself, and he does all, it's just fabulous. But so many people, our sponsors that we have, thank you very much for keeping this thing going, so that people may not like what they hear, because, everybody's got opinions, and this is not, this is open. This is an open mic all the time. This is Back Talk Live. You can call in, you can text in, you can do anything you want to do. This is your show, and it's for this community, and you make yourselves at home with Back Talk Live. So I just want to thank everybody. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks for watching.
Tell Mr. McManus and the rest of them up there hello.
I'll tell him hi from you.
All right. Thanks, Wes. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.